Welcome to this flight of the Retail Pilot. I'm your host, Ken Pilot, former CEO and current brand advisor, retail tech investor and board member. I'm thrilled to share with you the insights from some of retail's legends and leaders, as well as my perspective on retail today. This podcast is sponsored by the following. January Digital is a marketing leadership company solving business challenges through consulting, media excellence, and actionable analytics for some of the most innovative, growth-oriented brands in the country, including Carhartt, Kendra Scott, Strivectin, and Steve Madden. Made up of January Consulting and January Digital, they offer strategic leadership services and full funnel media planning, execution, and optimization, leveraging data to provide insights, yielding client success. Bluecore's software solution turns anonymous online shoppers into known customers and repeat customers. Bluecore enables retailers to personalize and optimize their email, SMS, and site marketing campaigns by delivering targeted and relevant messages based on where every customer is in their journey. Bluecore replaces annoying high-volume messaging with high-value messaging. Customers include Alo Yoga, Neiman Marcus, and Gap. On today's flight of the Retail Pilot, we have Alexandra Wilkis Wilson, an entrepreneur, investor, and board director. She's best known as co-founder of e-commerce sensation Gilt, which grew to 650 million plus within 5 years of its launch and later sold to the Hudson Bay company. She was also co-founder of GLAMSQUAD and Fitz, a closet organizing and styling company, which sold to Tradesy, the peer-to-peer luxury recommerce company. Today, Alexandra is co-founder and managing partner of growth equity fund Clerisy, investing in consumer and techsumer companies. She has been an avid angel investor and advisor to over 80 consumer tech companies, including Rent the Runway, The Mirror, and Bubble. Alexandra is an active champion of female founders and the co-author of New York Times bestseller, By Invitation Only, How We Built Gilt and Changed the Way Millions Shop. Welcoming Alexandra to the Retail Pilot. It's so good to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you for having me.
And we've had a long history together, but your history predates the two of us getting to know each other. Take us through your journey. I want to hear more about how you became such an entrepreneur and developed such a passion for the consumer.
Sure. So I grew up in New York City. I think I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I was one of those kids who thought a fun idea of a play date with friends was setting up a lemonade stand. I went to college up in Boston. After that, went into investment banking at Merrill Lynch, started out in the New York office, focused on Latin America investment banking, and then moved to London, which was fantastic experience. One of my passions is languages. I actually speak 5 languages. So living in London, working in banking, I got to use those languages. So most of the work that I did was all throughout Southern Europe, which was tons of fun, very much work hard, play hard. Then I came back to the US to go to business school. And I'd say that's when my journey into the world of retail and then later into entrepreneurship began. So after business school, wanted to get out of finance and learn the nuts and bolts of retail. I was super open-minded in terms of what company I would end up working at. I was between 2 job offers, one at Louis Vuitton in New York City and one at Zara, which would have been in La Coruña, Spain. Ended up choosing the Louis Vuitton role, was there a couple of years in their management and training program, then went on to Bulgari where I ran the retail stores. And then 2007 is when the entrepreneurial journey began, and I decided to join forces with 4 other people. We were 5 co-founders. And we launched Gilt in 2007. And then I've known you probably since a couple years after that. So you're familiar with the entrepreneurial journey since then.
What attracted you to Gilt? It seems like such a departure from what you were doing before.
Yes. So lots of things attracted me to Gilt. I would say that I was working in luxury goods and realized that it was a little bit more glamorous from afar, the path to becoming a CEO of a luxury goods company, especially Louis Vuitton. When they put me in the management and training fast track program, I realized there was nothing fast about it. It would be a long road. And usually at the top were French men, which, I'm neither male nor French. So that was not necessarily going to be in the cards for me. And got together 2007 with Alexis Maybank, one of my best friends. She was one of my best friends. She's still one of my best friends. And she really convinced me to join with her and two engineers, Mike Brizik and Fong Wing and Kevin Ryan, in what then became known as Gilt. So I weighed the pros and cons of doing something entrepreneurial. What was the worst thing that could happen? Well, in 2007, I was newlywed. I didn't have children. My husband worked in finance. I was able to take a calculated risk at that point in my life. That's kind of how I evaluated the decision. Do I do this or do I not do this? And I was totally okay with failure. I think at any point in my career when I've had to weigh making decisions, I'm visual. So I like to put on a piece of paper, pros and cons. Should I do this or not? And I will tell you the list of pros was infinitely longer than the cons list. The cons list was, so it doesn't work out. And then I have to go back to, let's say, the world of luxury, or at that point, luxury was on my mind, and get another job. And so was totally comfortable with the worst case scenario, and also really believed in the idea of bringing this excitement of a New York City sample sale online. And I love the thrill of a challenge. I'm goal oriented. I love to do things as part of a team, and really felt that partnering with Alexis and our other co-founders was going to be complementary. We all brought very different skill sets to the table. And I also had a feeling it was going to be a lot of fun, and really didn't imagine how transformative the experience would be from a career perspective, but it certainly was. I mean, that really put me on the map of being an entrepreneur and getting bitten by that entrepreneurial bug. I'm so glad I made that decision.
Share with us a little bit more about the early vision for Gilt, and also some of the cool things that you were doing when the company was just starting, with the timed sales and how you really infiltrated those who were at work, knowing not to miss a special Gilt online event.
Yeah. So if you think back to 2007, which was a long time ago, I'm sure some of your listeners were, in college potentially. The world looked very different in terms of how we shopped. And so the idea of shopping online in an appointment format, members only, was really different. And so we wanted to create this having been an employee at Louis Vuitton, which was owned by LVMH and owned so many incredible brands, I had the privilege of getting invited to these sample sales of all their different brands. And then I had friends at many other luxury brands. And so I would get these highly coveted sample sales where, if you were an outsider, you probably couldn't even get in. And if you could get in, you'd have to wait a long line. And so this feeling of, I remember Alexis Maybank and I being at a Fendi sample sale and having friends and family members text us, like, if you see anything in a size 39, under X dollar price point, just buy it for me. And I'm like, do you want a photo? I trust you implicitly, just buy it for me. And so that idea of like arriving at a sample sale of a brand you love and putting everything into your arms and carrying it, and then maybe later being rational kicks in of, would I really wear this? Do I really need this? Is it really worth the price, even though it's discounted? And then you start maybe letting go of some pieces. We wanted to create that excitement in an online format. And so what we would find is people would get so excited to log on to our sales. We first tested 9 a.m., then 11 a.m., and then very quickly landed on 12 p.m., noon Eastern Standard Time, which, was not so mean to our friends on the West Coast. The first sale, 6 a.m. When we launched, we didn't know that people would necessarily log on exactly when the sales started. It seems so obvious today, but we thought it would be more they'd trickle throughout the day when they had a lunch break or something like that. And that was certainly not the behavior. The behavior was the floodgates would open, everyone would log in, very quickly make decisions. And because, especially in the early days, inventory was limited, our consumers had to make shopping decisions so quickly in an exciting way. So there was a gamification aspect to the Gilt shopping experience, and our prices were great. The brands we convinced to partner with us were great. We really curated the assortments, and it all started really by invitation only. And we invited our friends and encouraged our friends to invite their friends. And I mean, it became viral very quickly. And I think part of that was because in 2007, people didn't have nearly as many online shopping options as they do today. So it really was novel nearly 20 years ago.
Not only was it novel, but it was also extremely successful. I don't know. How long did it take Gilt to reach unicorn status?
So within a few years, I mean, we really grew very quickly. Our first full year in business, we did 25 million in revenue. The next year was like 170 million in revenue. We were hiring, we were growing. It was really this incredible hyper growth period. I mean, I remember there was a time frame where every quarter we were doubling our employee base. So from 25 employees to 50 to 100 to 200 to 400 to 800. I mean, it was crazy. We were on a roller coaster, and it was fun and it was exciting. And everyone from the 5 of us as co-founders to the most junior person, our interns, you name it, everyone was just excited to be a part of something that was really innovative and fun and led by innovative technology. I mean, I came at it from a retail perspective and always thinking about the brands and thinking about our consumers. Alexis, as I mentioned, my bestie and co-founder, we really were curating for people like us. The idea was we were initially the target consumer. We started selling for the first 6 months only to women, and then we expanded very quickly to a number of other categories, including men, home, kids, etc.
I did have the good fortune of getting to know Kevin Ryan over the years and found him to be incredibly smart. He's also, I don't know if you know this, but he's also an amazing ping pong player.
Kevin has many, many talents. He's incredible. I learned so much from him. It was really fun to partner with him. He's the type of person who he's always pushing for better, forcing us to innovate. When we'd have any kind of win, he would celebrate the win. And then always, the question would be, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I think having a partner like that, I was 30 years old when we started Gilt. I was young, I was green, I didn't know what I didn't know, and was eager and hungry to learn as much as possible. And he's the type of partner who is there to push and make us all be, the best that we can be in what we're building together.
So fast forward to 2016, you have an exit, and Gilt gets acquired by Hudson Bay Company for a little less than unicorn value, just under 250 million or thereabout. What happened to the business over that time period that created, I guess, the financial challenge or the exit that did happen finally, well below the peak value of the company?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting time in the world. There were more places for consumers to shop online. I will say in 2014, so I'd been at Gilt 7 years. Michelle Peluso was the CEO. I moved on from Gilt. It was time for me to explore my next venture, which ended up being GLAMSQUAD. And I'm happy to tell you a little bit about that. I had been involved since 2009 as an early stage advisor to lots of companies that were really at the intersection of either fashion or beauty, retail and tech, and have always been, or since we started Gilt, have been very passionate about supporting female founders. And so a lot of these female founders, many coming out of Harvard or Harvard Business School, they would find their way to me and I would get excited by what they were building. So the first company I advised was Rent the Runway. Jen and Jenny were still in business school and innovating on the idea. And I got really excited and wanted to learn with them. Birchbox was the next one. Fast forward a couple years. So this was more like 2014, reconnected with 2 guys that I'd gone to Harvard with, Jason Perry and David Goldwhite. And they were noodling on the idea of GLAMSQUAD and testing out in-home beauty services. And it was around the time where there was the Uber of everything. And so, this idea of what if Drybar and Uber had a baby and you could have on-demand they started with hair blowout services in the comfort of your own home at an affordable price. And I started advising them from the side and just got very passionate about it and curious about services and the on-demand economy. And they knew that I was thinking about what would I do post Gilt. I thought I might go into early stage VC. I actually had a couple opportunities to join established early stage VC funds. And I don't know what happened. They convinced me to join forces with them. And, I was just excited to be co-founder. Didn't really care what the role was, because when I jump in, I just roll up my sleeves and just get so excited. And they said, we really want you to be our CEO. I said, well, I haven't been a CEO before, but I'm willing to give it a try. And that was that. So I actually was already working on GLAMSQUAD when Gilt sold. So that was really under the purview of Michelle Peluso, who's fantastic. And then I was on to my next one.
So fair enough to say, just in summary, I guess Gilt meeting a lot of competition, other sites popping up, competing with the customer for their dollar online, and you exiting the company probably didn't help the value of Gilt. That said, onto GLAMSQUAD. What learnings or key learnings did you take from Gilt and apply to GLAMSQUAD?
I mean, there were so many things that I learned from Gilt. That, as I said, was my first entrepreneurial adventure. And I was so tied up into Gilt in terms of my identity. I felt that, wherever I went, I was associated with Gilt, even when it was technically my personal time on the weekends or whatnot. It was very emotional for me. I took everything personally. I mean, I gave Gilt everything. I would say that with GLAMSQUAD, I was a little bit older. I was more experienced. I was more mature. I was certainly less emotional. So the highs and the lows, the good days and the less good days, I didn't feel them as deeply, I would say, as I did about during my Gilt years. I also had learned so much about managing people and understanding how to motivate people. We're all motivated differently. We're all inspired differently, and spent a lot of time in the Gilt years, and then worked with him in all my other subsequent ventures, working with an incredible coach. His name was Barry Cardin, and he relied heavily on Myers-Briggs and understanding, not only what is your profile, but I'm ENFJ, by the way, and understanding what the profiles of those that you manage, those who your peers and potentially even your board members is really valuable. And so applying those types of lessons of, what makes people tick, what motivates them, and also just getting so much better over the years in both giving and receiving feedback. So I remember my early days of managing people, especially as a founder, where you care so much. And if you see somebody who's, maybe not giving it their all, it's like hard to fathom, like, why aren't you working faster? Why aren't you working harder? Or, I would send emails all day long, all week, throughout the weekends, 3 a.m, you name it. When the idea came to me, I would send the email, and I kind of learned, okay, maybe just stays the emails, and then you can hit send Monday morning. It doesn't really matter if I'm hitting it on a Saturday afternoon or Monday morning. But I applied a lot of those, I think, mature managerial lessons from Gilt to GLAMSQUAD, which was helpful. And I think, we did so many things incredibly well. We also made mistakes. And so applying those to a different business, it was also a different time and it was a different industry. And so there was a lot to learn about managing and building a services business. But in many cases, it was a similar consumer. So I was very comfortable and familiar and knowledgeable about who it went from the Gilt consumer, then the GLAMSQUAD consumer. Then I worked on 2 other ventures, similar consumer. Then I ended up later in my career, I ended up in corporate for a few years at Allergan. You might not even know that.
I remember that. But so what happened with the GLAMSQUAD journey? Take us through that.
Sure. So I was at GLAMSQUAD 2 years, not that long. Really, really exciting time for me and for the business. We learned how to start with in-home blowouts in New York City and then expand to additional services. So with an incredible team, I must say, again, I don't do things alone. I do them with teams, and teams where we have team members who all bring different things to the party. So we expanded from hair to makeup, to nails. We went from New York City to Los Angeles to Miami. And we realized that this playbook, and that was something that was very different from e-commerce, but working in a hyper local environment where every city has its different nuances, not only the customers and the styles, but certainly just, how, let's say, the beauty professionals get around town, whether they're driving, whether there's subways and public transportation, or whether it's a hybrid city like a DC or a Boston. There's a kind of a combo depending what part of the city you need to get to. And so learning the nuances was something that we realized we needed someone who had deep expertise launching on a growth scale, multiple markets of something, this hyper local experience. And so I was thrilled and eager to work with our team and our board to find a leader who had that playbook experience of launching many markets. And we ended up finding and bringing on board Amy Schechter as the CEO. So, again, I don't really care about titles. I was thrilled to partner with her, have her on board, learn from her experience. She had just been with Core Power Yoga and knew how to expand into lots of different markets. And so we were working together. And then I fell upon another opportunity that really just kind of swept me off my feet. I think I get so excited and motivated and challenged by learning and new opportunities. And so if you think about Gilt, I left when Michelle Peluso, several years after she'd started, but she was at the helm and she had a lot of experience in managing a business. And then at GLAMSQUAD, Amy Schechter, similarly. So I introduced by an amazing individual, Paul DeVersa. Some of your listeners probably will be familiar with DeVersa Partners. They're an incredible executive search firm, very, very well known in tech. Paul reached out to me. He said, I want to introduce you to a brilliant man and friend of mine, Michael Klein. And he's working on something really cool that I think you'll be excited to learn about. So met with Michael, was blown away by his vision. He wanted to launch an app that we ended up calling Dresser, DRESR, which never launched. So if you Google, you're not going to find anything. We ended up selling it to Google before launch. But the idea was using AI and machine learning so that you could have an app which would guide the consumer to basically get dressed every single day. So it would have within the app all the items of clothing and accessories that you own, combined with all of the SKUs that exist in the world that you could buy. So think of affiliate, high, low, any price point from luxury to mass market products. And then through AI and machine learning, a way to style outfits for you. So if you have a dress that's in your closet and you want inspiration on how to wear it, it would show you visually different types of ways that you could buy accessories. So it was a big vision. And this was like 2017, 18.
So Google buys this. What happened to it? Like, where did it go? Did they see it as a threat and retire it? Where is that app?
Yeah. I didn't give you the full story. So parallel to that, we did launch a business that we call, this is why when I'm telling people about my career, I sometimes fly over this section because it's complicated to explain, but it was really exciting and there was so much to learn. But so simultaneously to building Dresser, and we had an amazing team that Michael put together, really an A team, the best in engineering, in AI and machine learning, in affiliate marketing, in tech product. And then, we brought in my friend Brooke Jaffe from Bloomingdale's. You probably know her. And we just had this really incredible team of people working together on the Dresser vision. And then separately, we had this, initially we called it Project Trojan Horse, which was how are we going to learn in the real world lessons that we can apply to Dresser? And so Project Trojan Horse, we ended up actually turning into a business, which we called Fitz, Fitz, which did exist and did sell to Tradesy, which is a luxury peer-to-peer marketplace. But so Fitz, really, we wanted to learn through Fitz. It wasn't about making money, although it ended up having a good business model, which was just a bonus. The idea was we want to understand how people interact with what's in their closet and so we would send stylists into a consumer's home. We really just focused on New York City because this wasn't about scaling. It was about learning. So we would send 2 stylists into a home. We charged $400 and it was about a 4-hour appointment. And these stylists were junior in their careers. I mean, they were students at FIT, so awesome style sense, but early in their styling journeys, not charging, what a celebrity stylist would charge. And they would organize the consumer's closet, help purge what should no longer be in the closet. They would help the consumer send things for resale, for tailoring, to the cobbler, you name it. And after the experience would send the consumer affiliate links for what they should shop. So what was so interesting to learn is that the relationship people have with their closets is so emotional, much more emotional than doing beauty services, which I just found sort of surprising. So, we would hear stories of consumers tearing up when the stylist would say, oh, why do you keep this item? They wouldn't say something like, oh, it's ugly and it doesn't suit you. They would just ask a question. And then the consumer might burst into tears like, this was from my grandmother who passed away or something like that. And, we would talk about the experiences afterwards. Like people are really emotional with what's in their closets. Not everybody, but many. Anyway, so we learned lessons from Fitz, applied them to Dresser. You asked what happened to Dresser. I would say that really was an acqui-hire for Google. I think they wanted to hire this incredible talent group of people and apply it to Google's own AI shopping effectively. So I think a few members of the team might still be there, but many went on, as you would imagine, to do their next entrepreneurial journeys.
And then another exit with Fitz. And that brings you pretty much to making a decision what to do next with your life. And you decide to partner with another good friend of mine, a friend of ours, Lisa Myers. Take us through how you got to Claricey, why you landed on it. It's a pretty amazing little fund, a $100 million growth equity fund that's focused on taking stakes in tech and consumer-focused companies. So really right up your alley. Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors. Predict Spring is a global point-of-sale platform live in 22 countries. The platform includes mobile POS, endless aisle, fulfillment, inventory management, and clienteling, creating a true omni experience for customers and associates. Predict Spring powers Suit Supply, Converse, Lovesac, Decium, Janie and Jack, and Bouclair.
So I'm going to hit rewind just for a quick second. So after Fitz, I ended up at Allergan, and I was brought in by BCG to basically head everything related to consumer and digital. And that's when I got to know Lisa while I was at Allergan, because she was a partner at L. Catterton. She sat on the board on several boards, but one of them was Ideal Image, which was the largest spa out there and Allergan's biggest consumer of their, if you think of the aesthetics portfolio, which had cool sculpting, Botox, Juvederm, etc. And Lisa and I were introduced through a woman named Eleanor Hoover, who's fantastic. She leads consumer investment banking at Citi. This was about 7 years ago. And Lisa and I we instantly connected, became fast friends, had a mutual respect for one another. We had known of each other. I knew her as, she's the female partner at L. Catterton, which is a fund I've always admired. And, she knew about my entrepreneurial journeys. And so we developed, I would say, this professional friendship where we would meet probably quarterly for a bite and, a drink, a bite before work, after work, you name it, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And we're very current on each other's careers. And we're really fascinated by one another. And 19, it was announced Allergan was getting acquired by AbbVie for a mere $63 billion. And Lisa and I connected that summer, so summer 2019, and she started telling me about her vision for Clerisy and starting a fund. As you know very well, Ken Pilot is like a marriage. And so many conversations of, why Lisa was so excited about investing at this growth equity stage across consumer. What would it be like to partner together? How would our complementary experiences and skill sets be beneficial to investing at the stage that we now do? Fast forward, we decided to launch Clerisy together. And then, of course, COVID hit. So that was interesting times. We were initially going to be based in New York City. we were both there. I am a born and bred New Yorker. And then COVID happened. I moved full time with my family to Miami, which is where I now live. And she moved full time to the Bahamas, which has always been her home base, or I should say for many years has been her home base. When she was at Hudson, she was between New York and the Bahamas. And we also had he was an associate, a senior associate when we brought him on. Now he's a principal on our team. So the three of us had been in New York and then we scattered and we did our first close of the fund October 2020 and really have been off to the races since then. Now we're a 4-person team. We brought on an incredible woman, Susie Harbour. She's based in Boston. And, we've worked with you professionally since the Clerisy days, having some great experiences together. It's been an incredible journey and I'm happy to tell you more about what we do.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the portfolio that you have today and what you're looking for, how you vet potential opportunities, or specifically what types of opportunities are you looking for?
Yeah. So we have a great portfolio. You can always check out our website, Claricey.com. Our first investment was a company well called Dormify, which is really an incredible resource for reinventing small space decor. So not only for outfitting and decorating college dorm rooms, but could be kids' rooms at home, could be apartments after graduation. That was our first investment. We work really closely with the team. We love the founders and Amanda and Karen Zuckerman, a mother-daughter team that I've actually known since my Gilt days. And we are lucky to have an incredible CEO at the helm named Park Hersant. And, we're in the final days of back to school shopping right now. So it's a really exciting time for Dormify. Our second investment was a company called Union, which is in the fintech space. It's inventory management and point of sale for high volume hospitality. So think busy bars and restaurants. Our third investment was in Clean Co. So non-alcoholic spirits. So think vodka, tequila, rum, gin, and whiskey. So if you want to be in the mix and feeling like you're participating with your friends or whatever the context may be, out for dinner, drinks, or at home, you can basically feel like you're drinking your alcoholic drink of choice. It has the same taste profile, but there's no alcohol, very low sugar, low calorie, 10 calories. And my favorite is the clean tea. So the tequila taste profile. So if I love myself a margarita, but I'm busy. I work hard. I don't want to have a headache the next day. So a clean margarita is my favorite. Yeah. So Sonoro is a podcasting company focused on the Hispanic consumer. So all the content's in English, Spanish, or Spanglish. And then Golf Forever. If you've heard of Scotty Scheffler, he just won gold. He's the number one golfer in the world. He's the face of Golf Forever. He's a partner of ours in it. It's a at-home swing trainer device and fitness concept. So there's an app that guides you through all kinds of workouts to help with flexibility, balance, strengthening the core, et cetera, for whether you're number one in the world or you're at the beginning of your golf journey.
So what are the common denominators of these companies? What do they have in common?
Sure. So this is Lisa's whole career as an investor and mine as a business builder. We've always been looking at where the puck is going and going after the white space. So we look for companies that are solving problems for consumers and fulfilling needs in a unique way. We look for structural profitability, and I would say ideally over 10 million in revenue, can be a lot more than that, but ideally over 10 million, because we're coming in after product market fit. We're coming in where the founders and the teams have tested the hypotheses, have a product or service that is working, that has product market fit, that, has repeat rates, has healthy KPIs. And when we come in, yes, of course, the companies need capital, but they need more than capital. And we really partner with our companies. We take a board seat, we roll up our sleeves. I'm an operator. So we help them. Each of our portfolio companies needs help in a different way. So, whether it's helping with hiring or working on their margin structure or marketing or business development or expanding into new markets or thinking about new distribution channels, really whatever the needs are, the founders and CEOs and their teams will say, we need help here. And, whether it's something we know the answer to and know the contact immediately, or we have to do some work and find it, like that is what we do. We're not passive investors. That is not Clerisy. The word Clerisy actually means a group of learned, collaborative people. And so we're all about bringing as many smart people to the table as possible.
I would say that the title serves you well, certainly is appropriate. And having worked with both you and Lisa, who I love, and as you know, we are good friends, you put me on the board and I was able to see from my perspective how involved both you and Lisa got in the business. Lisa really rolled up her sleeves on the financial side. You were very helpful to the team on the product side, but you were both very involved. So it's sort of, I'm guessing you really see yourselves as operating partners with every investment that you make. And that's critically important to why you're putting your money there.
We want to help the teams increase their chances of success and having a positive outcome. So if there are any tools in our toolkits that can add value, we bring them to the party, and we're constant. When we saw you at the lead, not long ago, and you were making incredible introductions for us, we took some of those introductions and brought them back to our portfolio companies. So we, just like you, are just constantly learning, wanting to pull back the onion and meet as many people. And then we're dot connectors, just like you. So if we learn one thing and can apply it elsewhere, we're always doing that. And we also proactively make suggestions to our portfolio companies all the time. They can take it or leave them. Not every idea I have is going to be a good one, but always want to be as helpful as possible.
To that end, you've spent a lot of time working on tech-enabled companies, being focused on technology. What technology is exciting you today, and how are you sharing that across your portfolio?
There's so much happening in technology. Every morning when I open up my inbox and read the news, I feel like I'm drowning in interesting articles. I think it's very timely right now to see how AI can be integrated into all kinds of consumer companies. Even a CPG company could have some sort of an AI component. I think social commerce is interesting. And I know that's something you've been talking about for a while. AR and, augmented reality and virtual try-ons, I think is interesting. Mobile payments and wallets is another area. We see a lot of that with Union, of course, which is all about mobile payments. We, as I mentioned at the lead, we met a number of interesting people, a few of them who you actually made the introductions for. We pass what we learn back to our portfolio companies and say, for example, like we came back and told them all, are we doing enough in AI? And should we be doing more? And can it be helpful in areas, let's say from customer service to, let's say customer service, for example. And some of our portfolio companies are just eager to be a sponge and say, yes, let's learn more. Like, how do we improve ourselves? So we're always trying to make those introductions, although we're also respectful because sometimes teams just need to focus on what they're doing and executing. And, for example, Dormify, they're in their quote unquote Christmas season right now. This is back to school. So it's really total focus on the business today. So all those kinds of creative longer term partnerships, we say, okay, we'll introduce you in the fall once you get through your high season. But we love facilitating introductions and sharing what we learn with our portfolio.
As a leader, and you've led many efforts and now you provide leadership for the companies that you invest in, what are just some of the key lessons or your leadership mantra that really drives the way you lead?
So, I'm a people person. I love to understand what makes people tick. I want to understand what motivates them. And once I can understand where is someone coming from, what motivates them, I think I can connect with them better. And if I'm leading them, then manage them better and inspire them more. So I think as quickly as possible, I like to get to know people. And I would say with time, I've gotten so much better at delivering tough messages and have realized that the sooner you can deliver a tough message and give constructive feedback in whatever way, shape, or form. But it just it's better for the team, for the output, for the individuals. There's no sense in dancing around delicate issues, and people end up, sometimes thanking you and appreciating those tough messages.
Is there a mentor that you think about that had the greatest influence on the way you lead?
So Mindy Grossman, and I actually just listened to your podcast with her because she is, I would say, a dear friend and a mentor and a role model in many ways. So I had fun in knowing that we were going to be chatting today. I listened to her podcast with you, which was so fun. And of course, reached out to her after like, oh, we need to catch up. She just has been an incredible mentor to me since my Gilt days because I look up to her. She's a tremendous leader. She's also human. She is a mother. She's a wife, now a grandmother. And she has impacted so many different industries and companies and keeps reinventing herself. So, starting in more old school retail and then HSN and then Weight Watchers and then now at Consello. I love that about her. And I think that, there's some similarities. I think in our careers, very different. We have different skill sets and experiences, but she's been tremendous. And she brought me on actually to the NRS Foundation board years ago. So it was fun to see her in action leading. She was the chair of that board when I was on it with her. I've learned a lot from her management style and watching her, observing her. And she's the type of woman who brings other women to the party, to the table, And I'm also so inclusive and, something I feel like if I were to give advice to others, I always say like, if you don't ask, you don't get. And, I'll give you an example. I remember in my early days, not my early days, but when I was at Gilt, and Susan Line was another woman I look up to and respect and feel very close to. And I was watching her sit on a number of different interesting boards. And so I watched Susan on boards and Mindy on boards. And, I went to both of them actually at different moments and was like, I'm sure you both get asked to be on boards all the time. I want to be on my first board. I haven't been on a board yet and was open to public or private. And I said, if either of you have any rejects that boards when your dance cards are full, please send me those rejects. I would love to put myself on the radar out there. And, Mindy, of course, gave me guidance and I have been on a number of boards since that moment. That was probably 2010. But yeah, Mindy's amazing.
With so many successful runs and opportunities that you participated in, is there one that got away? When you think back, is there one opportunity that you said, I don't want to do that turned out to be amazing?
Oh, that's a good question. So I like to be a glass half full kind of person. So don't like to dwell, don't like to
Uber reach out to you early on?
No, they didn't. Actually, when you just asked me that, then I'm like, oh, I did get asked to be the CMO at Jet. That probably would have been a good one. But I didn't. That would have been a good one. Yeah. Hadn't thought about that. So that's probably the right answer, but I didn't actually take it that seriously because it was way before they launched. And at the idea was like, oh, I don't know, whatever.
And guy, whatever.
Yeah.
Something else.
He's amazing. And anyway, so that, I guess that would be the one that got away. But I will say, that didn't actually turn into an offer because it didn't go far. But I did, through many of these jumps, have VC opportunities. And I'm really glad actually that I didn't take them earlier in my career and that I waited and just kept getting more operating experience from just seeing different industries and then having that Allergan experience. I'm so glad I had, I used to make fun of corporate, like, oh, corporate, it's slow and politics. And, I would hate that. Let me tell you, I loved my time at Allergan and it was amazing to be part of a company that just had such tremendous scale. And, $100 million business to them was peanuts. I reported to Bill Murray, who was the chief commercial officer. He was always saying to me, eye on the prize, and that's Botox. That, he was like, don't worry about the $100 million brands and businesses. Focus at what really moves the needle for a company of that size. So that was, I think because of what we're doing now at Clerisy, and we need to sell our portfolio companies to big strategics, understanding how a big strategic thinks and works and uses their corporate development, it was actually helpful. So I'm glad I didn't go into investing earlier than I ended up doing it.
All right, let's head over to rapid fire and then we'll land this flight. Ready?
Okay. Yes.
Favorite stream show?
This is my guilty pleasure. I don't think you know that about me, but I watch streaming about half an hour to an hour every night before I fall asleep. So I watch a ton in Spanish. So my favorite would be a series called El Tiempo Entre Costuras, which in English is The Time in Between. It's amazing. You can get it on Amazon Prime. But if you want something more mainstream, I would say Fauda or Outlander.
All right, you got me on Fauda, the Spanish one on Lost. Favorite vacation destination?
So I now live in Key Biscayne, which was always my favorite vacation destination. So if I can't say Key Biscayne, I'd say Brazil. I've been like 15 times, love it. If there's a past life, I was Brazilian in one of them.
Who would you most like to meet?
Taylor Swift. I'm actually going to London this weekend to see her with my daughter.
Awesome. And who is the next unicorn?
I would say any of the Clerisy portfolio companies.
Good answer. And if you weren't at Claricey, what would you be doing right now?
Versions of the same thing. So working with founders and mentoring them, helping them, and sitting on boards.
And with that, we'll land this flight of the retail pilot. Alexandra Wilkis Wilson, what a pleasure to have you on the podcast, and such an amazing career. And you're in an amazing place.
Thank you so much. It was a great flight.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's flight of the retail pilot. And please give us a review on your favorite podcast platform.